Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Females Thriving Over 30 podcast. Okay, so raise your hand if your financial education consisted of your parents telling you that you needed to save, school not telling you much about finances, and maybe one terrifying moment in your 30s when you realize you probably should have started investing 5 years ago. Yeah, same. So here's the thing that, nobody tells you. The guilt of starting late is actually what keeps you from starting at all. So today we're pulling up a chair at the party because Peta K is back and she's about to tell us that the best time to start was 10 years ago. And the second best time to start is after this episode. So yes, I'm really excited to have Peta back to talk more about finances, to talk about investing. But before we introduce her and we get her on the podcast, tell me, Jasmine, how have you been? Are you melting?
I have been hot. In more ways than one. Um,
Show
yeah,
us, show us.
we're in the middle of a heat wave, aren't we? So yeah, it's been very hot. The last 2 days I've worked on a really fun event though. So yeah, the
Yeah.
last 2 days I've been doing some work for my business, Empress, and I've been working at a funded project event, and it's called Her Land, and it's all about entrepreneurship and agriculture. So
Nice.
it's been really good. A big part of it is doing different webinars and stuff. So I've done that before this, and then the actual event had lots of different keynote speakers. They had a roundtable today with all different entrepreneurs and experts and academics in agriculture. So it was really interesting. I think it's all about empowering young women
Yeah.
in particular to become entrepreneurs, which I'm sure many people on this podcast could get behind and say that we stand for that. So that's been really fun, but it's been very hot. And both days we've had tours, and we've been outside. So
Yeah.
they've been very hot and sweaty tours while I've been walking around
Yeah.
doing that.
And you are not even in like the hot part of the country, that is supposed to be like the London South area that, in the map is like red. So I cannot even imagine how they are. I don't even know if Peta is actually in the London area. We'll find out if
Oh
if
yeah,
she joins
yeah.
like mountain or something.
But yeah, so that's been really nice. I mean, other than that, I can't really think what's happened since last week. I feel like that's just kept me really busy preparing for that, and then I've had that the past 2 days. Um, and yeah, what about you? What have you been up to?
Yes, melting these past few days, like feeling like I showered this morning and now I'm like, I'm gonna have to shower before bed again because I stink. I've been sweating and, like, where's the air conditioning when you need it? Right now, I mean, you can see myself with my Beyonce moment every time that the fan comes to me, like now, like my L'Oreal moment. But yeah, not been doing much, just mostly work, learning loads about the different ways to use AI, etc., like all of the latest technologies, working on thinking about new things that we could do in the podcast. Maybe you have seen on Instagram we're trying new things. So your feedback will be greatly appreciated. And what else? Oh, I've started rewatching a show that I've watched when it first came out many, many years ago. I think I was a teen when this show came about. It's called Revenge, and it's on Disney.
Love it.
Have you watched it?
Yes, love it.
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's so good. I literally like remember like watching the first episode and I was like, oh yeah. I mean, I remember some things, but not absolutely everything that happened. So I knew it was really good.
Mm.
And now I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's so
yeah.
good to the point that, I am, like I need to finish all the episodes. Like I cannot just like watch one. I watch
Mhm.
2 or 3 in a
Yeah,
row.
yeah. And if I remember, it's quite long, so you've got a long road ahead.
Yeah, because this is like the 20 episodes a season type
Oh,
of shows, you
mm,
know? So
yeah,
yeah, I'm really excited about that. It's been like crazy few days in the news lately. It started with this little boy that was thrown into the crocodile enclosure. Then yesterday or the day before, like the prime minister resigns.
yeah. I couldn't believe it when I heard the news about that boy. That is just so
Yeah, oh my God, yeah.
terrifying. Yeah, you just. I think there's been a couple of. Someone's mentioned to me about a couple of like train crashes and all the other
Oh my
things.
God, yes, that's the other one I said.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was like,
yeah,
it's been crazy in the last few days.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's
shocking news
so
after shocking news.
yeah, it's so scary, isn't it? When you see things like that, I think there's like certain times when things are happening where I'm like, wow, like you've really got to not take life for granted because you just never know,
Yeah.
what's around
Mm-hmm.
the corner and what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
obviously, especially with having a small child, like the thought of the thing with the crocodiles was, really scary thing to hear.
Crazy. Crazy. Crazy.
Yeah.
But yes, other than that, it's been a quiet week. Not really much. I've been like too concentrated on like researching and designing and doing things. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think I saw our guest, so I will let her in.
Yes, I'm excited.
Me too. Hello.
Hi.
Ladies, how
Are
are
you
you?
are you melting over there?
I am melting. I hope you can't hear my fan, but it's the only way I won't melt.
Same thing. Look at me. My hair is blowing in the air with my fan.
I'm jealous because I have no fan whatsoever. So hopefully I don't melt during this episode. But we're so
Yeah.
excited to have you back.
Thank you. I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, I
I'm
was I was
excited to
wondering,
host.
Jasmine, because your house is a cottage. Is it like cooler? Or it's not cooler because it's like thicker walls? Or how does
It
that
feels
work?
quite cool in here, to be honest. So maybe the thick walls are doing me a favor at the moment because it's not as bad as I like have felt during the day.
Good.
But then I did put up the paddling pool for my daughter after school, and so when I got home from work and got picked her up, we came back and put the paddling pool out, and it's freezing in there, and we've both been in it. So I don't know if I'm just now recovering from the fact that I've been actually freezing cold in the water, so maybe that's helping me.
Oh, maybe, yeah, maybe that's cooled you down.
Yeah. Okay, so we've already done a little intro of the part of the podcast, but then I don't know, Jasmine, do you want to introduce that we have her back and we start with the questions?
Yeah, so yeah, as I said, we're so excited to have you back on the podcast. This is one that we've both talked about loads of times since we last had you on, was like, can't wait to talk about investing, can't wait to talk about investing. Like, so we feel like we've got so much to learn from you. In case anybody missed the first episode where we had you on the podcast, can you just do a little bit of an introduction to yourself again and then tell us what we're going to be talking about today?
Sure. So my name's Peta K. I'm a qualified financial advisor, and I started my finance coaching business in the heart of the pandemic, as you do. So it's actually coming up to my 6 year business anniversary since I started, and honestly, it's just been such an amazing journey. Initially, I what I envisioned in my mind was being able to help people, to stop surviving in their finances and to start thriving. That was like my initial thought, but just seeing how that's evolved over the years, and even just being able to be a part of like people's journeys and being able to have conversations like this, when I first started, that was not what I envisioned at all. And I'm super passionate about finances, particularly about making it simple, because I think a lot of the times when it comes to finances, there's a lot of shame, embarrassment, whether it's admitting that you don't know something, or you're not quite confident when it comes to certain decisions, and even having conversations like this when it comes to investing, because these are the things that we often ignore, or we feel like, oh, I'll deal with it later, but it's really important. So just a little bit about me, and yeah, that's what I'd say.
Awesome. Um, so maybe let's start with, why do millennial women in particular feel so late to the party, or why do they feel so I don't know, like scared about like not having invested before? Is it because we are kind of like the first generation that have our own money? Let's say, like, like we started working, we had our money, we didn't maybe depend on, a man to be able to get a house or anything like that. Is it, I don't know, why is it us that we are so like anxious and obsessed with like we're late?
I think there's a number of reasons. One, I think we are a very unique generation of women in that some women at the age like in their 30s are not married, don't want to get married. Some are, some aren't. And I think just our lifestyle in general is very different if we compare it to like our mothers or our grandmothers. And so we're dealing with a lot of different issues that they wouldn't have dealt with previously. Most women are working or they're studying, they're doing something. You kind of have to support yourself. There's a lot less women that are stay-at-home moms. So we're dealing with things as women that potentially, let's say 20, 30 years ago, would traditionally have been the role of the husband. And so I think for a lot of women, they are the first woman in their family or they're of that generation to start thinking about building their financial future, what that looks like. And so for many people, their mums might not be the one that can kind of teach them because they didn't know it themselves. So it's quite a unique generation in that aspect. But also at the same time, you do have a lot of women that are thriving in their finances, that are doing very well in their careers, are earning a lot. But their reasons for not investing or feeling a bit late to the party is more so around the risk side of things. Like naturally, most women tend to be a lot less risk averse than men are. And so you have a lot of women that they've saved a lot of money. But when it comes to investing, there's that fear of like, oh, what if I lose it? I don't really understand how this works. So generally, most women tend to be a lot less risk averse than men are when it comes to investing. Even if they do have the resources to invest, it's more that fear around it that stops a lot of women from actually starting.
That's so interesting because before we came onto the podcast today, one of the questions I wanted to ask you was how do you overcome the fear of investing and not knowing what's going to happen with your money? That was something that I definitely relate to, and I thought one of the things that it would be really good to talk about is the fact that I've looked at investing loads of times, and obviously I know you might be able to talk a little bit on obviously there's different types of investments and some are more risky than others, and you can go for investments that are more of your safe types of investments. Um, so I have looked at doing it, but my fear is always that I'm going to lose money, and
Yeah.
then I'm going to be
Mhm.
annoyed that I've lost that money.
Yeah. Or like to me, it's
So
always been like, I want my money where I can see it. When you put it there, you just don't know what's gonna happen.
yeah, and I think
Mhm.
it's a control thing. Like I'm a
Yeah.
control freak. Like I like to control my life, and it's kind of by investing, you're putting it into someone else's hands, whoever's managing that investment, or the unknown of what's going to be happening with that money and the stocks and shares and stuff. So can you talk to us about how we can shift our mindset and kind of work around that fear?
I think firstly, working around that fear is understanding the approach you need to take. So when it comes to investing, you should never invest anything that you can't afford to lose. And you might say, I can't afford to lose £10, and that's fair. But in general, I think it's just reframing the way that you see investing. Remember, at the end of the day, if something's a legitimate investment, it means it's not 100% guaranteed. Whilst there may be, a high chance of it being profitable and you getting a return on your money, you also have to be aware that, you know what, I might actually lose this money. But what I would say if you are someone that's a bit more fearful is just firstly starting with small amounts. So an amount you're comfortable with. Even if you were to look at your general spending, you probably might find that you're spending or 100 or £200, let's say, a month on maybe what you consider as like nothing or things you're wasting money on. I would say start with that small amount, whatever that looks like for you, so that you can firstly get a bit more comfortable with investment, but also putting yourself in a position where, okay, if I lose this money, it's not the end of the world. Of course, you're always going to feel pain losing your money, but also understanding about how those losses actually work. So I think even before you start investing, I know that the fear element will always be there. I think one of the key things, especially as women, is we want to understand how something works. We want to feel like you're not just doing something randomly. And I'd say actually understand the basics is really important. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to be an expert. We'll talk a little bit about some of the different options out there. But I'd say as a starting point, it is really important for you to actually understand how that investment works, what it actually means before you go putting your money into something. Because what you want to do is make a strategic decision. You don't want to just, make a random decision and then be like, oh, why did I do that? Is it because that person I follow said, oh, this is a really good thing to invest in? Or is there actually some strategy behind what I'm doing? So firstly, I'd say it's actually understanding whatever you're putting your money into, you've got to firstly understand how that actually works. If you don't understand it, don't put your money into it. That's one thing I'd say as a starting point.
Yeah. I mean, like, I literally asked my fiance the other day, like, oh, maybe I'm gonna start. Like, I was like, how do I start investing? And I said, like, I don't know, like, if I want to do like £50 a month, and he was like, for that, don't invest anything. Just put it on your pension. And I'm like, okay, fair enough, but I don't like that answer, so I'm just gonna wait until we have the conversation with
And
Mia.
I don't
And now
agree
you
with
just
that
said
answer.
it, like, start it slowly. It's like, I was like, you don't understand the fear of letting go money from my bank account into investment.
I get it. But also, if only we had that fear when it came to spending. Most
I know.
people do not have that fear. But you see, when there's actually that, but also that just shows you how our brain works when it comes to money, right? We don't have that way of thinking when it comes to spending. We can easily go out, spend money, be like, oh my gosh, what happened? But when it comes to something like that, it's a little bit different how we react to it, right? In regards to what he said about if it's like £50, there's no point. I really disagree with that. For me personally, I started investing with less than £50. And at the time when I started, I didn't know all the things that I know. It was like end of 2019. But I had a friend of mine, she was talking about investing. And for me, like, I'm a very curious learner. I've learned about something new. I always had that perception too, like, oh, you have to have a lot of money to start. But I had that barrier without actually looking into it. And then when I started to research and I realized, oh my gosh, I actually can start with a small amount of money. And I did. I then realized that all these barriers I put on my head were actually not reality. And one thing I would say, especially for people that want to start investing now in this time, like, now is the most accessible time you can start investing. Like, years back, you had to have thousands to start, but that's not the case anymore. Like, I literally started, I think I topped up my free trade by like £10. I got my free share. And then the journey kind of continued from there. So after that, I started researching, learning more things. I later qualified as a financial advisor later down the line. But I say all that to say, my investing journey started with less than £50. And since then, I've now grown my portfolio. My pensions have also grown as well. My knowledge has grown. And also seeing the returns as well. And I look back and I think, oh my gosh, if only I knew what I knew then, I would have started sooner. And that's why I always encourage people, even if it's a small amount, it really will make a difference. The most important thing is to actually keep continuously like investing into your portfolio, even if it's a small amount of money. Over time, if it's the money's growing, you're going to have a return, right? Than if you do nothing at all.
I have it's kind of like two different questions, I guess,
Hmm.
based on what you've already said. And the first is, what if somebody's feeling like, I think it's easy, the older you get, to feel like, oh, if I was going to do that, I should have done it 10 years ago, and now there's not really
Hmm.
much point, because how much am I really going to make in however long, from this point? So what would you say to that, I guess, would be the first part. And then the second part was kind of related to that. I'm just a really impatient person. Like, I'm one of those people that if I'm doing something, I like to see the result next week. And I find it very
Hmm.
hard to just like have patience and trust in the journey of something. How long does it take before you start to see kind of something happening with your investing? And how long should you expect that to take?
That's a good question. I'll start with the first one about the time aspect of things. It's not too late to start. So even if you are starting in your 40s, even your 50s, it's not too late. One, there's still time, right? And I think also you have to think of that money as a long term. And that's the problem most people have. This needs to be money you don't need to use within the next, let's say, 2 to 4 years. It's money that you can kind of leave and allow that money to grow. If this is money that you're going to need next year, you probably should invest it, because the market can be very volatile. So even if you were to invest in something, for example, like bonds, so bonds tend to be a lot less volatile, especially if you invest in like government bonds. But again, because they are less risk associated with them, the returns tend to be a lot less as well. Again, so it's going to be something like, if it's like that, then you may want to invest in something like that if you're a bit more conscious of the risk, or if you have a lot less time. But let's picture you've got 5 years as an example, or even 10, because 5 years, when you think about it, it goes like this. 5 years ago it was 2021, which is like a blink away. So if you think about the next 5 years, okay, I'm going to invest £100 every month. I'm just going to put that money into a fund, an investment fund, and every single month I'll put it in. So the same way you might have a direct debit, a standing order for your savings, you'll do the same for this investment account that you have. And you're just going to leave that money to grow. The second question you asked, Jasmine, was on when can you expect to see something happen? You could invest in that fund, and tomorrow the value of that fund can go up. But what you've got to understand equally could go down. What you've got to understand is that you only realize your profit or your loss once you sell that investment or you take some of that money out of it. So one of the things that I saw at the beginning when I first started investing was every day I'm checking my account, like, can I retire yet? Am I a millionaire yet? And then what I would notice is, like, some days my account is up a lot, other days it's down. And then I realized, you know what, let me stop checking this every day. It's not like your bank balance. Do not check it every single day, because it's just going to fluctuate. And again, if you are someone that's a little bit more anxious or worried, you don't want to start making decisions based on those daily fluctuations, which is why whenever there's loads of studies on it, generally people that invest over the long term will realize more gains than those that invest in the short term. So you have some people that have a more like a short term approach, where they'll buy stock today, they'll keep it for like a few days and then sell it at a short-term loss, which, unless you're a professional trader and you are checking the markets daily, for your day-to-day person, do not do that. It's very high risk, and you're more likely to lose more money than you are to actually gain it. But if you take a more balanced approach, in the sense that you invest in a fund, when it comes to funds, there's lots of different types, there's different risk levels. I would say if you're someone that you don't know much about investing in an investment fund is one of the better places to start, because one, they are professionally managed, and also there's different risks attached to them. So you can have a look. So I'll use Vanguard. That's an easy example. Most people have heard of Vanguard, and I also use them myself. So with Vanguard, they have different types of like strategy funds. So they have some funds that are a bit more low risk. So if you're someone that you're like, oh, I want to do something that's a little less volatile. So those types of funds tends to have less equities in them, and they'll be invested more in like things like bonds and money market instruments. So things generally that are less risky. And what you can have a look at, you'll always be able to have this information, is you can see what the past performance of that fund is. So it will show you each year how much it gained in profit, how much it lost, so that it can help you to make a bit more of a informed decision before investing in it. But I'd say if you are just starting off, investing in like a pre-made fund that aligns with your risk level is probably one of the better places to start, as opposed to just thinking, okay, I'm just going to invest all my money in Nvidia because I've heard everyone talking about it and it's doing really well, or put it all in Bitcoin. So I'd say one of those options is a better place to start.
Okay, I was literally gonna ask you, like, how do we start, right? But I guess like you've mentioned some of it, but in any case, yeah, how do we start in investments, and what are kind of like the rules that you have? Because the other day, I'm just gonna read here what I found is there was like very random, like I don't really know how these videos find me because I was not looking at any content of this, but it was like this dad that is obviously teaching his son regarding investment because he wants to make sure that he's financially savvy, blah blah blah. And he said, like, rule number 1 is avoid certain types of investments. So these are the ones like meme stocks, crypto speculation, biopharmaceutical stocks, and IPOs under 6 months old. So do you have any rules that you follow for yourself similar to this, that whenever you're going to invest, you take into account, that we should take into account as well? Because, I got so excited the other day when I heard that Anthropic and OpenAI were going on an IPO. They have kind of like submitted at like an early IPO, and I was like, whew, I love Anthropic. I want to get in there, right? My fiance told me, no, don't do that, because when they go to IPO for the first time, it's probably going to go down before it goes up again. And then I saw this post, and I'm like, okay, I just need your take on this. Tell us, what should be in the lookout for? What are the rules that we need to follow? How can we not fall into a scam? Because I've seen a lot of on social media as well, like these people, oh yeah, this is how much I make when I go to bed, and then I wake up and I do this much. Come with me and I'm going to show you how to be rich, blah, blah, blah.
I love that you ended with that. So firstly, be very cautious of anyone that says to you, oh, I can guarantee, you're 100% you're going to make the money. 99% of legitimate investments, there is some level of risk attached, unless you're investing in some business and you've got a contract that they say they will pay you regardless. Apart from that, those are very small circumstances that happens. Like, firstly, you've got to assess what it is. And especially if it is, most of us, we do use social media a lot, as much as, like, for example, when I post certain content, I might say this is not financial advice. Let's be real, most people still kind of take it that way. And they're going to make decisions, especially if they trust the person or they think, oh yeah, I can relate to them. A lot of the time, their decisions will kind of be guided by that content. So one thing I'd always say firstly is, like, don't make a rush decision. Just because everyone's talking about it doesn't mean you should invest in it. Do your own research. Actually look, what does that company look like? What does that mean? And have a bit more of an understanding of what you're going to invest in. And some of the rules that I apply is, firstly, I don't invest any money that I can't comfortably afford to lose. So, for example, I'm saving up to buy a house. I'm not going to put my house deposit money into into stocks and shares. I'm just not going to do that because I can't afford to lose that money if it goes the other way. So that's one thing. I don't afford what I can't afford to lose. I don't invest, what I can't afford to lose. That's the first thing. Secondly, I'm not going to invest in anything that I don't actually understand. So I don't need to be an expert in it, but I need to have a bit more of an understanding about what that company is, what they do, why am I actually investing in it? There needs to be some logic to my investment. So that's another thing as well. It can't just be because everyone's talking about it, so let me do it. I personally don't really invest in IPOs. Similar reason to what your fiance said, which is true. Most IPOs, when they first come to market, a lot of the times they are overvalued, and the initial stock price that they come in at most times does drop a lot. So if you are one of the first people to go in, let's say you buy Anthropic and it's $100 per share, in a matter of weeks, it could drop down to $40. It could even be less. And again, a lot of that money that you've initially invested is going to be at a loss, only when you sell. So I would say, if you are really interested in a company and they're going to IPO, if you're super confident and you're planning, do you know what, I'm going to maybe invest for 5 to 10 years, and you don't mind those fluctuations in the market, then that's fine if you want to be the one to get in early. But equally, you've got to understand that potentially it might not go the way that you're hoping. So, for example, you've got SpaceX that's IPOing. For me, I'm like, not putting my money into that. There's so much controversy around it, but equally, again, the price of the shares could really drop significantly. So you've also got to be aware of that. Another rule that I'd say is, actually having a clear plan as to, like, what you're actually investing for. So I think everyone talks about investing, but you also need to have a reason. What am I investing for? Am I investing this money that I want to keep for, I don't know, the next 5 to 10 years to supplement my pension? Do I want to take some of this money out to renovate my house? Have some sort of strategy or goals as to why you are investing that money. Because eventually, I'm sure you're investing that money. Eventually, you want to be able to take some of that money out. So having, like, a clear idea of when you'd want to be able to take out some of that money. So for some people, what they do is, their investment strategy is, some of that money is towards funding their retirement, because as you know, the state pension, the age that you can access it is 68. which for most people, they don't want to wait till 68 to be able to access their pension. But of course, you might have a private pension outside of that, and the age may be 65, depending on your pension. Again, if you are someone that you're thinking about, I want to be able to retire a bit earlier and I don't want to have to wait until I can access my pensions, investing into a stocks and shares ISA, investing for your future, that can be a way that you can fund your retirement a bit earlier. Or if you say that, do you know what, I want to be able to have the option to take a year off work, go traveling. Those may be different goals that you have attached to the money that you're investing. So it's also just having a clear idea, what am I actually investing for? Because yes, we're talking about investing, but what is your aim? What are you actually working towards? I think that's also important as well.
You
Yeah, that
mentioned
was awesome.
about oh, sorry. You mentioned about like educating ourselves um on investing, and like making sure that we know more about investing and kind of what we're looking for and stuff. If you're going to start, where would you advise people to go to start doing that? Or do you have any top resources or places or ways you would advise people to start learning more about investing?
Good question. I would say a place to start firstly is we have the internet. The internet is available. Of course, not all the information you find will be accurate, but if there's particular things that, for example, you're like, oh, what's an ETF? I don't understand. YouTube has so many different videos just explaining, what those things are in simple terms. I'd say starting with things like YouTube. There are some books on investing, but a lot of the times they are quite complicated. Like, for example, I've read a book called The Intelligent Investor. I wouldn't really recommend it because it is quite complicated. I've not really read any investment book that I'm like, I'd really recommend this, because a lot of the times they're kind of geared towards people that are already investing. But I'd say just simple terms, like literally just YouTubing, what is a stock if you don't really understand clearly what it is. There's so many different videos that will break it down in simple terms. So I think just having a general understanding of what different things are, that's a good place to start to kind of educate yourself a bit more.
Yeah, and obviously, what are like the apps, the resources, the places we need to go as beginners? Because I guess you just don't go online anywhere and just say like, okay, here's my money. I'm pretty sure there is like some more reputable places that you go to create your account so you're able to invest. I don't know if depending on the country that you are, like if I don't know if like in the UK we can invest in companies all over the world or only UK companies, and if you want to invest in an American company, you need to use a different app or resource or platform or whatever. I have no idea, so please enlighten us.
Sure. Okay, so to start investing, what you will need is a brokerage account. So the same way, for example, you have a bank account for your everyday spending or for your saving, it's the same. To invest, you'll also need an investment account. So there's lots of different types of brokers that you can start with. And now there's a lot more options available as well. So for example, you have your Vanguard, like I mentioned. You also have Freetrade, Trading 212. So the initial place you need to start to actually be able to invest is you need an investment account. But a really important thing that I didn't really think about when I started was thinking about tax. Because that's one thing you don't think about. You think, oh, it's going to take ages before I'm eligible. I have to pay any tax. But you don't know how it's going to go. You might invest in something that does really well. You decide to sell and then you got a tax bill. So also thinking about the type of investment account that you have. So what I would suggest, especially just starting, is actually opening up a stocks and shares ISA. Even if you know nothing about investing, you're not going to invest yet, opening up a stocks and shares ISA. Again, there's lots of different brokers that you can use, but I'd say really simple ones are like Trading 212, Freetrade. They're really simple, easy to use apps you can have on your phone. And the interface is also very beginner friendly as well. So it's kind of similar to like your bank account. It's quite easy to understand as far as like being able to navigate the app. So that's the first part. You need to actually have an investment account, but definitely starting with a stocks and shares ISA account, because with that, there are some tax benefits of that. Because if you do start investing in a general investment account, if you start to have returns that are over your capital gains allowance and you decide, oh, okay, I'm going to sell now, I'm ready to pay for my holiday or whatever it is, or you just say, oh, I'm happy with the returns, I want to cash out, you may be liable for tax if it's over your capital gains allowance. Whereas when you're investing in a stocks and shares ISA, any dividends that you get, any gains, it's all tax free. However, there are some changes happening with like cash that you have holding in your stocks and shares ISA. That soon they're going to start taxing at 22%, but that's next year. But so it is tax free, but there's also a little caveat that's coming, unfortunately. But yeah, that's definitely something I'd say is really important, because when I started, I didn't think about tax, and I thought, oh, it's going to take me a long time. I don't need to worry about that. But it was soon a hassle.
You know what?
So it's
The
important to think
taxless
about.
talk gets me fired up, because, you know, it's just like, why do they have to take taxes for everything? Why do they need to tax your pension when you've already been paying taxes for so many years? And then I am not seeing my tax money anywhere, because the roads are full of holes. The NHS is not funded enough. Who is taking that money? So good that you told us this, because I wouldn't have even thought about taxes for investment. But of course, they will tax us for breathing air one day.
You've got to think about, of course, you got to think about the tax. Because, of course, yes, we should pay our taxes, but you got to be smart, right? You want to be able to maximize your gain. So, yeah, definitely investing in a tax-free account is super important.
Something that I noticed recently, so I have a Monzo account. I have like a couple of different bank accounts, but something I noticed recently on there is that they have like a grow part now on Monzo. So you can invest through your Monzo account on your Monzo banking app. And I imagine there's similar things on other, like, especially more online banking type, with online banking type banks. So what would you advise in that sense? Because my assumption is investing on something like Monzo is going to be less beneficial than investing through something like Vanguard. Do you know if that's the case, or would you say there's anything to watch for there?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think, one, it would depend. So, for example, I don't invest in Monzo, so I'm not sure. But a lot of the times, like these brokers, some of the investments they have available, so they may have, for example, some of those Vanguard funds I mentioned, but on their platform. So the things that you need to think about would be like if there's any fees on the transactions that you make. So when you buy or sell, will they charge you? Will there be like an annual fee that will be added on to your account that you may be charged? So these are generally the things that people would compare when it comes to like choosing a broker. And also, like, what do they have available on their platforms? Do they have the stocks that you want to invest in? Do they not? And more so the flexibility around that. That's more so the things you would consider.
And you know what I was just thinking? You said like at some point you work with a broker, right? You said.
Yes.
Yeah. How do we get away the fear, at least the one that I have, the fear of working with a broker after watching The Wolf of Wall Street and all of these Ponzi schemes and things like that happen when you just give your money to a broker and yeah, it's all going great, and then it's like your money is nowhere. They took it all.
Okay, it's a little bit different because the way it works, if we use Vanguard, I'll use it because it's a simple one. You download the app, you can look at the fees you can look at all the different funds they have available, and then you are choosing for yourself. So most of them have a more independent approach, like you can pay for financial advice and they'll pick for you. But if you are just picking your funds yourself, you're the one that's making that decision. So you're able to have a look at all the funds they have available. You can choose the risk level. You can compare different funds to each other to see, and then you would then decide what you're going to invest in. So that most of the retail investors now, they have that option as the first one. If it was a case of you actually paying someone to invest on your behalf, then that would be a little bit different. But generally, you would pick what you want to invest in, unless you're like paying a financial advisor to choose for you.
Okay, so we are safe. We're safe. Safer.
It's safe in your yeah, in your decision making. Yes.
Part of me, one of the questions I wanted to ask, part of me is like, right, if I'm going to do this, I feel like I just want to go like high risk, high reward investing. You know, like there's a temptation, I feel like, to invest your money in something where it's high risk, but then you may get a really good high reward out of it. I guess, like, what it's a hard thing to answer. This is going to be a really hard question to answer. But I guess by going into a high risk, yes, you might gain a lot of money. However, it's obviously more likely that you may lose that money as well. If
Yeah.
you are feeling like, I don't know, I guess my question is, they give you all these different risk levels. So you would think most people would go for the fairly safe options of kind of low risk investing.
Mhm.
So kind of what's the thought process that you should have behind whether you want to take a higher risk? Would you get someone to consider when they're deciding whether they're willing to take that higher risk?
I would say if you're going for something more risky, it's back to my initial point about would I be comfortable if I lost this? If your answer is yes, you know what, it might be disappointing, but it won't be the end of the world, and you're comfortable with taking that risk, then that's absolutely fine. But what I would say also is looking at your approach as, let's say, a pie of percentages. So maybe 80% of what you invest will be in something that's a little bit more, I don't know, moderately risky. So you might invest mainly in um, funds that are already pre-populated that align with your level of risk. And then the other 20%, you might then decide, you know what, I want to put that in stocks that I think they'll do really well, do a little bit of research. And that's money you're willing, like, if it doesn't go well, it's okay. So I would say it is absolutely fine to have like a percentage, like a small percentage in when you're doing it in comparison of investments that you may make that is a little bit more risky, but again, you're comfortable, if it goes down the hill, it's okay. Like that's how I started like a very small crypto portfolio. And for me, that's how I'm seeing that. If it all gets lost and I lose everything, it's not the end of the world because I'm not investing much into it. But occasionally I'll top it up and, see what happens. I may be the next crypto millionaire. I don't know. But we're looking at my whole investment portfolio, that's a very small percentage that is in crypto because again, it's a lot more volatile. And for me, I'm a little bit less risk averse when it comes to things like that. So I still have little toe in it, but generally, I'm my investments is more aligned with like mutual funds.
Yeah, that's the dream, right? Waking up one morning and just be a millionaire from your investments.
Yes,
Okay, so
it's not happened yet, but that's the dream.
well, we keep manifesting, we keep dreaming, It will happen. It will happen. So when did you first realize that women maybe needed a different financial conversation? And what would be one question that every woman should ask herself before investing anywhere?
I'll be honest with you. I'd probably say it was last year that I realized the conversation around money and women needs to change. I started creating personal finance content in 2020, but a lot of my content always kind of centered around budgeting, saving, being intentional with your money. I didn't really speak much about investing for a number of reasons. One, I'm very conscious of the fact that a lot of people do take, the content that they watch very literally. And I've always been conscious of the fact that I don't want to influence someone to make like a bad decision or anything like that. So I kind of shied away from talking about investing. But towards the end of last year, I really thought, you know what, I need to talk more about it because it's so important. And there are so many women that they don't invest. They're afraid to invest or they
Mm-hmm.
just put all their money in a savings account. And also when you're doing that, especially for long-term savings, you're actually losing money in the sense that your money's not keeping up with inflation. So there's that aspect of it also. But when I look at statistics like the fact that most women have significantly less than men when it comes to retirement, there's a lot of retirement poverty when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
women. So when I think about things like that, I realize, the conversation does need to shift. So even earlier this year, I had like an investment session for women where I was speaking about investing, where to start, the things that you need to consider, just something really practical to help the women to start investing because it's definitely a conversation that we need to have more. And even when you think about the things that are marketed to us as women, a lot of things are marketed for us to spend but very little when it comes to actually investing our money, growing our money, building wealth. It's all around spend, spend, spend. Look like this. This is the lifestyle. This is the aesthetic you need to have, but very little around us actually building on our finances. And I think it was pretty much last year I thought, yeah, the conversation needs to change. So I'm very passionate about getting more women to invest. So I talk to my friends about it, my female clients, when women talk about like, yeah, this is what you need to start doing. So yeah, I'd say it's honestly more recently that it's become more important to me.
Do you notice a big difference in people from different types of backgrounds and the way they approach this kind of topic or area? Because I think a lot of money's to do with mindset, isn't it? Like a lot of money stuff is to do with
Mm-hmm.
mindset. And I think if you come from a background, maybe slightly lower income background, or you know, you have parents that never have invested, or nobody in your direct family that's invested, that it probably feels a bit different to somebody who may be from a wealthier background, who maybe their parents have more financial literacy and can teach them this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How can you reframe your mindset around money, or do you have any advice on how you change that? Because I think one of the things that would hold me back would be worrying about almost feeling like I'm gambling, and then if I lose some money, probably feeling like shame that I'd lost that money, you know, those kind of things. What would you say for that sort of thing?
Yeah.
You've asked a lot of good things in one. I'll start with the first bit. I've definitely noticed that there's a difference. Like people that I've spoken with that they grew up in households where their family would talk a bit more about money. It was more of a normal thing. They'll have conversations like, oh yeah, I started this, I got my first property at this age, or my dad told me to do this, or I did this because of that. And I find that people that generally that they are the first one in their family, it's a lot harder because one, you're starting on your own and you can't really speak to your family about it because they may not understand. Or especially in situations where this person may be the high earner within their family, there's a bit more of that awkwardness to talk about the things that they're doing because one, they might not understand it. It can be a bit awkward as well. So there's definitely a disparity when it comes to that. But I do find that generally people that they grew up in households where they spoke about money, where they were taught to do certain things, you know, their grandma, you know, had some bonds for them or they inherited this or that, the conversation tends to be very different from people that are literally just starting from scratch and just piecing everything
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. Like I literally, when you were just saying that, was like, I do not recall like in my household to ever mention how to save, how to invest. And I'm pretty sure my parents invested somehow because well, I mean, obviously it was different times. People were able to get more for their money, but I'm pretty sure they did. And I always wonder like why these conversations don't happen naturally within households, because I think it's very important taking into account that at school they don't teach you anything regarding finances. If your parents also don't teach you about it, unless you have some type of motivation to learn about money and about, you know, budgets and things like that, we're never really going to learn how to manage our money and how to make the most out of it. Please, everybody, start having this conversation with your kids, like all of our ladies listening. When your kids are old enough to understand, please send them the podcast episode so they can listen to all of this. Then talk to them about it and start researching, because I'm pretty sure like in 10 years times the world is going to be very different, and whatever some of the tips that we have today probably are not going to be valid because the world is just going to be completely changed. But please start having these conversations. I think this is one of the reasons why we wanted to do this episode on investing, because as I said, like I've never had that conversation growing up. Jasmine, I don't know if you did
Yeah,
have any
I was
conversation
gonna
about
say,
investing.
like, I think the only thing really about money was being like sensible, which is why I asked you the you know, partly why I asked you that question, because I think I was always just told like be sensible with your money, like just like make sure, you know,
Same.
yeah. And I think part of me probably feels like I need to keep money in my bank um just in case. I don't know. It's
When you see
I know
it,
that by
it's there.
putting money in savings and investing, there's actually like you have actually more money and you are potentially, hopefully, making money. But I think it's hard to shift away from that thing of like, oh, but if I do that, then I don't have it to access straight away if
Mhm.
I need it tomorrow, or if everything goes wrong and I need it. And
Yeah.
I think, like I said, I think potentially there's a fear of making the wrong choice in an investment. Like, if I'm investing, what if I make the wrong choice, even though there's probably not a wrong choice, but if I end up choosing the investment fund that
Mhm.
doesn't end up doing well, how do I deal with the feelings
Yeah.
that I have about my decision
Yeah.
making if that was to
hmm
happen, I guess.
Um, Peter, did you have this type of conversations in your household? Did your parents talk about money, investing, budgets, and things like that? Or is this something that you just were interested in and just you learn on your own?
Well, no, is the short answer. My mum definitely spoke about like the importance of saving. That's definitely one thing I took away from her. But again, when it came to investing, it's not something she knew, so she never taught me. But she always kind of taught me about saving. Even if it's a small amount, you still can save. So that's one trait that I definitely took away from her. But for me, my interest in like finance and money, that just kind of came, I probably say from like my teens. I've always been quite entrepreneurial, like wanting, and also I don't want to be poor. I think a lot of my motivations has been, I don't want to struggle. I don't want to go through some of like the challenges I did in my childhood. So that's always kind of been my motivation to like, okay, how can I learn? Like, how do I do this? How do I do that? So I kind of just searched out for the knowledge that I wanted. And also one of the things that I'd say kind of got my curiosity going about investing was a friend of mine that started investing, but also a lot of people talk about this book, and I'll caveat it with saying this first. But for me, reading this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, it actually took me, it it piqued my interest in investing one. And just reading that book, I took action like, okay, how do I start investing? I started researching, I started looking into different things, and it pushed me to actually take action. I know a lot of people have read this book and have mixed opinions, but they've done nothing with what they took away. But for me, reading it, I thought, do you know what? Okay, let me have a look at this investing thing. Because like I said to you at the beginning, I always saw it as something as you need to have a lot of money to start. But once I actually started doing my research, I realized that wasn't the case. So just having that desire for the knowledge and looking and searching kind of took me down this rabbit hole.
And why do you think, like, when we are, like, as you said, when we're having these conversations with family or with our family, even at school, it's mostly only about savings? That's the one thing that everybody talks about. Make sure that you have savings, you have that little safety nets and stuff, and no one ever mentions investing. Why there's such a big gap between one and the other, and this one is like never touched, but this one is the main one.
hmm I think the gap ultimately stems from most people don't have knowledge on investing. So they default to what they know, which is saving. Everybody knows it's important to save. You should have a little safety net. And a lot of the times we give advice based on what we know. So maybe your parents taught you to save because that's what they knew. A lot of the times, conversations about investing aren't had because a lot of people don't know about it. Or even people that are investing, they may not necessarily speak about it because I feel like there definitely is a bit more of like a taboo in British culture about talking about money, what you earn, and all those things. So I think a lot of it is that too. It's just a bit more like, you don't want to talk about it. It's almost like politics in a sense as well. But I think a lot of it does stem from the fact that a lot of people lack knowledge in that area.
So if somebody's listening to this and they're feeling super inspired to at least like dip their toe into investing, obviously you've mentioned some resources and stuff that they can go away and look at, or just to be, use what's at your fingertips, search different terms that you don't understand and learn what different terms mean, and start having a look at all the different types of investments that you can make and what they look like. Is there any other advice or anything else that you want to add or mention that would help people if they want to start their investing journey?
Definitely. I'd say key things also is looking at the basics. So you may think I'm not investing, but if you are opted into a pension at work, you're already investing. That's a place that you've already started in. And I'd even say to keep things very simple, even for example with your workplace pension, actually educating yourself on that. So logging in to the account, because a lot of the times people are opted in, they've not checked in years, they don't open those statements, they don't pay any mind to it. And I think it's also important to have a look at that. So have a look at your pension that you invested in at work. What is it currently invested in? What's the value of your current pension? And something that's a really simple thing that you can do is you can put in the value of your pension currently, and it'll also show you what the average returns has been, and you can do a projection. So if you want to start with just, okay, projecting at the rate my current pension is at, based on that my current pension pot and the rate I'm investing, like the amount I'm investing each month, you can have a projection of roughly what that's going to look like. And for most people, that number either surprises them in a good way or in a way that they're like, oh, okay, maybe I do need to start investing more because it's a lot less than I think. And all of these are things that you can literally check for free. You can type in pension projection calculator, and all you do is put your numbers in and it will calculate it for you. So you don't even have to do that yourself. But I'd say something like that is a really good place to start because it gives you more of the reality and allows you to see where you're currently working at. So I definitely say that's one thing to do. So if you do feel behind or you feel like, oh, I've not actually investing, if you are opted into a workplace pension, you have already started investing. And I'd also say if you're someone that you've got multiple pensions, maybe you've had different jobs throughout the years and you've kind of lost track of them, get that life admin together and track those pensions down. Because what does happen is there's actually a large amount of unclaimed pensions where people have forgotten about it and they don't claim that money. And again, the money's yours.
You
Yeah.
got
What
money
you're
of the
using,
people that are not
you
claiming it.
so, and if you don't claim it, they're not going to be chasing to find you to give it to you. So definitely something like that. Again, there's like a free government chasing account website where you can track your pensions down. So if you type that in, track my pension, there's like a gov section that you can use on the website to help you to find like who the pension providers are. So that's a simple bit of life admin, which is really important. So I'd say that's something to prioritize as well.
That's so interesting because I know for a fact that I have quite a lot of pensions because I had quite a lot of jobs from when I was younger. And some of them, like, I have no idea what's going on with some of them, but I have random paperwork from all different pension companies. So that's definitely going to go on my to-do list of something that I need to do and kind of just make sure that they're all in the right place. And I'm assuming, you said by looking at your current pension and seeing what um you can see what they're currently invested in, your money is invested in.
Hmm.
I think that's a really good piece of advice because if you can actually look into what you are investing in through your pension and you can see what's been happening with your pension, it might help you look for similar types of things maybe when you're investing your own money, would you say?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also kind of give you a bit more awareness as well as to what you are investing in.
Yeah. Well, I found this so interesting and I feel like I've got so much. This is
Me
going to add a million things to
too.
my to-do list. All these things, like all these things that I need to research, all these things that I need to check. But yeah, this has been so valuable. So thank you so much.
The other thing I'd say as well is actually just seeking for some help as well. Like you don't have to hack it all on your own. Getting some professional help. And like I said, you don't have to pick your whole portfolio. Using professionally managed funds is a great place to start because you don't have to be, picking, oh, should I pick that company or not? You can literally just align it to your risk level. You can have a look at what the past performance of those funds were to help you to guide you a bit more in your decision. And then you just put that money in each month. Don't think about it. Don't check it every single day. We check it every couple of months and give it time to actually grow. And again, if you've got questions, of course, you can reach out as well.
So for the listeners, can you just remind us where they can find you? Obviously, we'll post you on our Instagram and everything like that, but where can people go if they're listening and they want to have a look at your stuff?
Sure. So if you're listening, you can have a look at any of my social platforms at Your Finance PT, or you can head over to my website, which is pearlsandperils.com. So if you are someone that you're like, "Do you know what, I've heard this conversation, I want to start investing in the stock market, but I don't know where to start." If you're based in the UK, I do actually have an investing 101 session. And in this session, I go through all the essentials that you need to know. We also look at your risk level, what you can afford to invest, and giving you the practical tips to actually get started as well. So that's also something that you can have a look into as well.
Amazing. I think everybody should just go and get the Investing 101 session with you, get started, and let's make a lot of millionaires.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure I feel like this is not the end of this finance conversation. We've had two podcast episodes with you
Honestly,
already.
there's so much to talk about. It's difficult to cram it into 45 minutes.
The more we talk to you as well, like things crop up where I feel like, okay, this is a topic of conversation that needs to be had, even just around money mindset and stuff. So I'm sure we'll be seeing you again. So our listeners will be very pleased to know that I think if you'll join us, I'm sure we'll be asking for you to come back. And
I
talk about-
would. I'd be down, definitely.
Yeah. For everybody listening, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. And we shall see you all in the next episode. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, ladies.